Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and you're listening and or watching the Snob West Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back to another episode of the Snob West Show, and with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. So we are kicking off the lowdown with some not so pleasant Apple news. I thought that it was definitely important for us to cover this these events, as you know, we're definitely Apple enthusiasts. We love the products, and we've called out other tech giants for their misdeeds, and it has come to light that currently Apple is blocking pay equity Slack channels from being created on the, of course, platform Slack. This has come in the wake of what's being called Apple 2, kind of playing on the whole Me Too
Okay.
movement, where there has been, some discriminatory acts against employees that have been swept under the rug or not taken seriously. People have been fired. There's a lot of uproar. And one of the things that is a source of contention as it relates to Slack is pay equity. And we know that pay equity, especially in these large tech companies, as well as in general, the pay parity is quite different. So,
Well, just in general.
yeah, just definitely in general, there's definitely a pay gap. And then we take it something at the level of Apple, it just brings, unfortunately, even more attention to it.
Well, not just pay gap, pay equity. Just talking about pay in general is kind of taboo when it comes to your employees. Nobody likes to really kind of say how much they make or say what kind of raises that they get, which is kind of does everybody a disservice because
except for the company.
Except for the company, right? Because if we kind of talked about, the different salaries that we make, open and free, that may enable us or enable employees of these big companies to better organize around pay equity specifically. Mm-hmm. And, we're talking about the different type of pay scales when it comes to woman, when it comes to man, when it comes to white, when it comes to black, Asian, Latino, gay, things of that nature.
Disabled, non-disabled.
Disabled, right. Yeah. If we talked about pay in general, we may find it easier or more just easier to talk about pay equity specifically.
Yeah. And especially since we are now doing the whole remote thing, you can't have kind of these water cooler conversations or pull people to the side conversations. So, of course, it went over to Slack where people were creating Slack channels in the Apple Slack platform, whatever you want to call it. And Apple has essentially shut those down. And an employee relations representative told employees that, quote, Slack channels are provided to conduct Apple business and must advance the work, deliverables, or mission of Apple departments and teams. So that is the premise that they're saying you can't create these Slack channels, the official statements that you can't create these channels to talk about income and pay. At the same time, on the other hand, there are other Apple in-office channels, for instance, hashtag fun dogs, hashtag gaming, hashtag dad jokes that are still up and running that don't seem to meet that same criteria that they just mentioned when it comes to discussing pay. So that definitely shines a light on the whole the
hypocrisy.
There you go. That's the word I was looking for. For you to say that you can have these fun chats over here that don't have anything to do with work, but when you have another chat talking about HR related things, which honestly is directly related to the company, when you talk about discriminatory practices, sexual harassment, harassment in general, talking about pay, raises, those type of conversations, that it seems to be okay to have those conversations as long as they are, quote, lighthearted and fun and not really kind of shining a light on the company culture. So it definitely is something that has really blown up. I think in addition with people having the conversations about, I think they said there's another channel, the Apple that I'm reading, the article I'm reading from, Apple Insider. There was another instance where they were kind of shutting down these Slack channels when there was a channel that was created to talk about remote work issues. How, we talked about it last week where they were trying to get people back in. They ultimately pushed it back to October, but there's a channel that has, they said, about 6,000 members that was still up as of the end of August. They don't know what the current status is, but they were not happy with that channel talking about how remote work issues were related. So I say all this to say, with the Apple II movement, I don't follow this person on Twitter, but I am on Tech Twitter, and she is, I think, she's a dev, but I think she is on the security side, and she started putting together a document, a survey asking people to say, what level they are, how much they make, and their bonuses, and she was putting it together. Apparently, Apple found out about it. There was some retaliatory things to her for that. There were other employees harassing her. You're ruining the company. You're going against Steve Jobs' legacy. You're making the company look bad. You're making us look bad. That type of deal. And I think she is still an employee of Apple, but I think she had to take some sort of break or something. She wasn't super clear on Twitter about the details, because of course this is an ongoing HR situation. But just the harassment that she has faced from trying to just gather salary information so that everyone is better informed, and making sure that people are getting paid their worth with people that are, at the same level as them, did the same job as them. So I definitely wanted to bring it to light, because this particular issue was, all over the tech blogosphere, the tech ecosystem. And it's one of those things where, while we love Apple, their products are amazing and we love them, two things can be true at the same time. We could love the products, they could have great products, but they could also not be treating their employees as well as they should be. And so I definitely wanted to have a conversation about that. Have you seen anything on Twitter about the whole Apple II?
Well, I'm familiar with this particular conversation, right? So here's my take.
Go for it.
I may surprise you a little bit.
Okay.
I get it from Apple's standpoint. I get it because I'm a parent, and this may be a terrible analogy. I'm a parent with a teenager and an almost teenager in the house. And one of the things that they try to do on the sly is go in their room and shut the door. There will be no doors shut in my house. Oh. Whenever I feel like it, I'm going to open up the door to figure out what you doing in here, what y'all talking about, what's going on. This is my house, that sort of attitude, right? So I get it from Apple's standpoint to where, look, if we feel like we have bought or implemented Slack and implemented into our business, we have the right to tell you what you can and can't do with these tools. The problem with that is it's supposed to be like that across the board.
And it's not.
And it's not. Apple's got these cool fun, like you said, fun dogs, gaming, dad jokes, traditional Slack type of
conversations, channels. Yeah.
It kind of mirrors Twitter, but more for an organization. So think of Slack as Twitter for Apple or Twitter for whatever company that decides to implement it. Of course, you're going to have all these different channels that are work related and just cool, kind of, like you said, water cooler, chit chatty, get people to take their money. I'm pretty sure they got meditation Slack, channels, and they got, all these other things. Now, again, those, if Apple's stance is going to be like, we're only providing Slack channels to conduct Apple business and must advance the work, deliverables, or mission of Apple departments and teams. Like my analogy, this door is going to remain open, and what I say goes in this house, and that goes for everything. Not it would be hypocritical for me for a dad to say, okay, no shut doors in this house, but if you're only talking about how much you love me and your mother, then I'll let you kind of shut the door a little bit about that. That's not how that works. It's
Right.
either it's my house, my rules, and as a parent, in this case Apple, you have to be firm across the board. And what Apple's not doing is they're not being firm across the board and
Yeah.
letting some of these other check channels slide and shutting down some of these that could be detrimental to Apple. At the very least, bring them bad press. So they're trying to squash that stuff. But if you're going to have this blanket statement, it needs to be blanket.
Yeah.
So what Apple needs to do,
Shut down all the other Slacks.
shut down all the Slack, and it should only be management, networking, development, whatever,
Right.
whatever, whatever, and that's the only stuff. But again, that's going to make for a not so nice workplace.
And it kind of
And
takes the allure from the whole, we're a cool tech company. We have
right, right.
ping pong and we have, bar night or whatever little, things that these tech companies do to make it seem like they're cool and laid back. But if you're going, like you said, if you're going to have this stance, you got to have it across the board. You can't cherry pick what you want employees to talk about if you have
Mhm.
this quote unquote open forum. But I was just looking at Twitter on the young lady who I was mentioning before. They've moved over to Discord. So, I mean,
And
people
that's
are,
what they should have. To
yeah.
me, that's what you should have did in the first place. Because, like I said, you're not about to come in my house and say, you know what, we about to tear this house down. We need the side of the corner of the house so we can talk about how we're gonna tear your house down. I'm like, no, y'all do that on your own. Now, if y'all want to talk about pay equity and you want to talk about fair treatment of employees, do that. Don't do that on my dime. Do that on something else, which again, if they would have did that via Discord, they probably could have got a bigger momentum,
Yeah.
more buy-in, make it more organized, structured, and then hit Apple with it
Yeah.
versus doing it within Apple
Yeah.
and they squash it before you can even get that ramp up.
Yeah, and I think probably I don't work for Apple, but I'm thinking, because of the open type of environment, they probably thought it was a safe space to have
This
that.
is a
I don't know
please.
how if I
This
like
is
we
a
have something at work. We don't use Slack, but we
uh,
have like our own internal system that's kind of like it.
mhm,
And when the whole our our the how they were going to do the work from home type of
mhm,
deal, whether you can work from home or whether you can't. And when they came back and there was some information that said, well, this group has to do A, B, C, and D. People were on it with their full chest, with their full name, going to town, and I was like, wow. I consider myself a pretty bold person, but that type of bold, that is, I don't have that type of bold to
right.
be that forward facing. For me, I would want to be more strategic, like you said. Go over
Mhm.
here. Let's get our ducks in a row. How we want to handle this. Get all of our information, and then slide back over if we want to do it in
And
Slack
present.
and say tick tick
Right.
tick tick tick. This is what we found. This is what blah blah
Mhm.
blah blah.
Mhm.
But you go in organized. So it sounds like they are taking this Apple II movement full throttle, and I guess we'll see what the outcome is if there's any change
And
from
that's as
Apple.
they should.
Yeah.
This is a look, like you said, Apple's cool. Everybody loves Apple, but Apple is a
Business.
business. Bear, don't please don't forget that
Yeah.
Apple is a business, and when it comes down to it, they look at and this is like minimizing, but you are just a line item on a spreadsheet.
And
They
that's
can
not
talk.
minimizing it. That's just facts.
You can talk all, the Apple can talk all day long about all the things and all the cool
Inclusivity and
stuff.
yeah.
And this goes for all the
This is
businesses. When
all
it
companies because all these companies are out to make money. We have these pay disparities at all companies, whether you're tech, whether you're finance, whether you're real estate, whatever it is, it's the same.
and when it comes down to it, it's either you or them, and it ain't gonna be them.
They gonna choose themselves every single time. So this is definitely something I would say we will probably be hearing about again, because I think this is really just getting started. So we'll definitely, keep an eye on it and see where it goes. Because honestly, when I was looking for things for the show this week, everything I pretty much saw was, I think there's a new beta. I think beta number
It's
8,
all, yeah, it's a
and
lot of rumors.
it's a lot of rumors because we're
Yeah,
in September. We all know what happens in September.
right.
I'm assuming probably next Tuesday we'll
Mm.
get the little
Invites.
invites or whatever the case may be for the event that following Tuesday. So
And,
people are now trying to get their rumors in so they can say they were first. And so when things come out, see, I told you, but you waited to a week before it was announced. But that's neither here nor there. So it was a bunch of rumor talk and what they think and what's going to happen or what to expect when honestly, they don't know.
right.
All right. The next thing I had, this is right up your alley. You put this in the show notes, and I was like, this
Hmm.
is definitely right where you were hoping to be. I think when we did predictions a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
Apple has now announced that there are going to be 8 states that will allow you to keep a digital version of your driver's license on your iPhone. And this will happen. The update to allow this will be in the software update this fall. So probably iOS 15. They don't say
Hmm.
specifically it's iOS 15 if it'll come out once the iOS comes out or if it's going to be a couple weeks later. They don't say, but the expectation is that it will be sometime this year. And there are 8 states: Arizona, Connecticut, Georgia, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Oklahoma, and Utah will be the first of the states to offer this feature. And this is in conjunction with TSA. So you'll be able to leave your physical wallet at home, so to speak, and be able to use this digital this digital version of your ID when you go, say, to the airport.
Hmm.
The thing that I'm most surprised about that Arizona and Georgia will be the first 2 states to roll out the feature, with the remaining 6 coming after. And I'm like, look at Georgia trying to be on the leading edge of some technology. I was
Well,
like
well,
shocked.
I don't know about Arizona, but you think of Georgia, you think of Hartsfield Jackson, you think of
The
the
biggest
most
airport, yeah,
busiest
busy
airport
airport in the world.
in the world, if not the United States,
It's
right?
definitely the
So
world,
that
yeah.
right, so that makes sense. Specifically because the only information that this story that I found talks about is Apple working with the TSA, to make it possible. For example, like at an airport, go to the airport, you can, approve a note from TSA using your Face ID, a touch ID. Company says customer data is encrypted, yada yada yada. So basically, one of the few, if not at the launch of this feature, one of the only things you'll be able to do with your driver's license on your wallet app is if you're traveling and you can use your phone to authenticate who you are at TSA.
Yeah.
Now, all the other things you use a driver's license for, to, if you're going to a club, prove you're over 18.
Hmm.
If you get pulled over by the police or you have to prove who you are, I don't think you're just going to be able to hold up your phone and be
Phone
like,
and say, yeah,
because in order for that to happen, if let's just use getting pulled over by the police, for example, I'm not giving them my phone.
no,
I'm not doing that.
yeah.
So in order for that to work, the police officers would have to
Have a
have
scanner.
a piece of technology,
Yeah.
right, that they can scan my phone and then it pulls up all my information. Then they can take that to their car, do whatever it takes them a ridiculous amount of time to do. It seems like every
Yeah.
time the past I got pulled over for little minor infractions, cop pulled me over one day because he was trying to find something on me. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I was on my way to getting my tags renewed
Mm-hmm.
on the day that they expired because my thought was, and this is my bad, I'll take the L on this. I thought I had throughout
The whole day.
not even the
Oh,
day.
yes, it's supposed to be the month.
So my tags expired in January. I figured I had the month of January to get my tags
You
renewed
do.
for February 1st. Oh no, you got to do it before. You got to do
Oh.
it before. So, my bad. That's what I said. I thought it was the month.
Because
So
my birthday is on the first of the month, and I was like, I had the whole month. What am I rushing for?
I'm just telling you what he said. He could have even been wrong and made that up, but
I think you made
I
that
was
up.
on my way to getting my tags renewed. Cop pulled me over. It's like looking around, in the car, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I pulled you over. I'm like, no,
No.
because I was doing the speed limit. I wasn't speeding, minding my own business.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in a hurry to be nowhere, just driving in the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh well, ask for my ID, ask for my wallet, ask for my registration.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back, it's like, oh yeah, your tags are invalid or whatever he said. I was like, no, I got the month to go. I'm on my way. I'm actually on my way to go get them renewed now. Oh no, no. So we had a little back and forth about that. I was like, whatever. And he was like, well, your tint on your windows. I'm like, sir, now you're just looking for stuff
Now you just, because you look stupid.
because you look stupid because you couldn't find anything. So you argue me back and forth about the registration times.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about my window tint, which came from the factory, and it's legal tint from the factory. My
Mm-hmm.
front windows are not even tinted.
Mm-hmm.
It's the back windows that come from the factory, which in the state of Georgia, I know you can have the back windows tinted as dark as you want them to, as long as the front windows, the
Mm-hmm.
front side windows, and the front windshield is not tinted. So we are back and forth about that, and I'm like, dude, you just looking for something. But I digress.
Right.
All that to say,
But honestly, I find it hard to believe that the state is cooperating with Apple to authenticate, your ID and all this stuff, that they aren't going to, in kind, have the technology on their end for people
right.
to actually be able to use it, because it would seem to me to be counterintuitive for you to, I'm sure there are many meetings, many tests, many discussions about doing this. Why only do it for TSA? But,
Right.
I guess time will tell. And likely when they roll this out, they'll have a list of, things that you can use this wallet ID for. But I definitely think it's, moving in that direction of, having, all digital everything. And I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, how the mobile ID, and I think it was for some universities, and I think Auburn University, they are
Alabama.
strictly, Alabama, they're strictly, for iOS users, they're strictly for your student ID.
Cardless.
It's digital. They don't even necessarily do physical cards for non iOS for iOS users. So
Right.
I definitely think we are going into this, as we move further into this digital information age. We are slowly going away from having physical things, and the fact that, one, it just makes it easier for people. I think, two, it cuts down on costs for the state overall, for having to have the materials, having to have the building. I mean, it might put some folks out of a job because you have all these workers working at the DMV and, these type of places. But at the same time, I would think that it would significantly reduce some of the overhead and cut down on some of the budget.
And theft, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
if I've got my driver's license in my wallet, and I've got my credit cards in my wallet, and I've got my health ID in my wallet, and I've got all these other things that verify who I am, somebody steals my wallet or steals my purse or steals your purse, it's going to take me a minute to be able to call my credit card place, call my bank, call my, whatever, freeze my credit, whatever the case may be, while somebody can take my card, go to the ATM or scan it or whatever the case may be, versus my phone. My phone is locked right now.
Yeah.
The only way, if somebody takes my phone, the only way they can unlock it is with my information.
Right.
If they don't have my information, the worst thing they get is a phone
That they can do nothing with.
Because if they can't authenticate, it's going to erase all the information on my phone. So, now if they get my authentication, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But them getting my phone and also getting my authentication is harder than just taking my wallet.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking as someone who's had their wallet stolen in a foreign country. So,
Right.
yeah. That I can definitely attest to. Riding on the train in Spain, going to Barcelona, I am trying to call all of the credit card companies because my wallet got stolen.
You still got to do that. You still have to do
You
that.
still have to do it.
But you don't have to worry about in the next hour or 30 minutes
Somebody draining your accounts. Yeah.
Right. Or, falsify who you are, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. All right. Moving on to the last article in the lowdown. Twitter has launched their highly talked about super follows only on iOS devices. So super follows is their new feature that allows users to charge for subscriber only content. Think Patreon for tweets.
Got you.
And so if you are a content creator who has super followers, you can, send out tweets that are specifically for your super followers. And I think they said, reading from this article in The Verge, the Twitter announced this feature back in February. And like I said, it's only available for iOS devices and for a small test group. And these people who are in that test group applied to try out the feature. So initially, this is for US and Canadian residents. There's a badge that is underneath your name when you reply to tweets that identifies you as a super follower, and they're expecting to roll this feature out to more countries, of course, outside of the United States and Canada, and for it to be available on both the Android devices and on the web version of Twitter. So super followers can charge, super follows, I'll call them followers, super follows, which is the feature, users can be charged in tiers, $2.99, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. And all the payments will be handled through Stripe. So Twitter says that you can earn up to 97% of the subscription revenue after third-party fees. But the contention is you get this 97% only up until you reach your lifetime earning limit of 50,000 US dollars across all their monetization products. So that includes, I'm assuming, like tip jar. I think you can do like content. I think you do like paid spaces now. And so after you hit that $50,000, then the percentage you can earn is 80% of revenue after, of course, your third-party fees. Now, again, this is in trial, and everybody just can't be a super follow. So you have to, have these key metrics. You have to have at least 10,000 followers. You have to be at least 18. You have to have at least tweeted 25 times in the last 30 days, and of course, comply with all of Twitter policies. So there is a wait list now that you can apply to get on outside of this current group. But I don't remember hearing about this in February. Maybe I did, but February seems so long ago. But now it looks like, everybody is doing their own Patreon-like features in their apps. We've seen, what was it? Apple did it with Apple Podcasts, kind of having the exclusive content, which was likened to Patreon. It seems as if now you can monetize your tweets, send it out to a selected group of your super followers, and make money off it. I don't know, I guess, what kind of content these tweets would have in them that would justify, the fee, but I guess it'll be interesting to see, I guess, how it works, or the type of content that people are putting out to get this extra super follow content.
Twitter should have been did this 5-10 years ago.
When everybody's like, I can't believe this app is free. Well,
they couldn't
have
been. They wouldn't have been crying and complaining about ad revenue and how they're going to make money, because Twitter's always been that. Well, how are we going to make money? And instead of them, they should have did this first before they did all of the sponsored tweets and the sponsored content and all the ads, because I even hate going on Twitter nowadays, because I don't know if I'm retweeting or clicking on something that is from somebody I follow versus people throwing sponsored tweets all in my timeline. I would much rather, if I was going to pay for it, I would much rather pay whatever the amount is to get exclusive tweets from the people that I want to get from. They're going to make so much money off of it. In my opinion, they're going to make so much money off of this. The problem is they could have made so much more if they would have did it before Patreon came out with their own thing, because I don't check Twitter like that, but I know there are people who live in Twitter.
Yes.
They don't go on Facebook. They don't go on Instagram. We know how about all the news that breaks on Twitter.
Yep.
Imagine if some of these Twitter profiles with 60-something million followers could set up something to where, hey, you pay $5 a month, you're going to be a part of this special group that only sees
special content,
special tweets, and get tickets to Bruno Mars, Silk Sonic tickets. Be a super follower.
This is like pre-sale for tickets, but you get tweets
for videos,
pictures.
Kanye could have dropped Donda on his super follows a day or two before we got it on streaming services, and he would have made a killing.
Yeah.
On top of the merchandise money he made, on top of how much he got paid from concessions from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then the thing he did in Chicago. On top of all that money, on top of all the streaming,
our super only follower merch. That's only you can get it if you're a super follower. Yeah.
Twitter is 5-10 years too late on this idea.
Even though they're still going to make a ton of money, these content creators are going to make a ton of money. They could have, like you said, made a lot more.
And they're going to come, and they may come off of Patreon because, like you said, up to $50,000, they're going to make 97% of their subscription revenue. I guarantee you, Patreon's taking more than that.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, any other place is not only taking 3%. Up to the first $50,000, and then after that 20%. That's still better than Apple's the App Store. Right. So in my opinion, this is a great idea. They should have been did it, because there are rabid Twitter users who will gladly pay $3 to get exclusive Twitter content from their favorite follows.
Yep. So we'll see. Like I said, they're in the initial test group phase now. It'll be interesting to see, when it gets its full rollout. Likely, I'm guessing, depending on the feedback that they get, probably early next year. That it'll be
once this takes off, they're gonna all that other crap that they've been trying to make money, they're gonna throw that all to the wayside when this blows up.
Yeah. Definitely. Because it's not only going to make money and keep their followers, their base engaged, it's also making money for the content creator. So it's hand over fist money. Those on Twitter who meet the criteria are making a gang of money. And
And 25 tweets a month is light work. People do that in 3 days
that's like a
on
tweet,
Twitter
pretty much
threads.
a single tweet every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's easy.
Yeah, easy. Light work for a bunch of people. All right, that is it for the lowdown. Let's head over to Second String where we talk all other tech. So this first story I put on here is because I didn't realize that people were actually using this. So everybody has stories, and LinkedIn has stories.
Well, obviously they wouldn't because of the story you're about to read.
So, well, no, this it can be misleading. So, LinkedIn has stories, and they are currently going to discontinue their current iteration of stories because they thought, much like copying Instagram and Snapchat, after 24 hours, your video's gone, you know, never to see it again. And LinkedIn, the product developer, the VP of product, I think her name is Lisa Lee. I have to scroll down the story a little bit further to find it. She figured, people wouldn't want long-term videos on their profile because it could be something they're saying off the cuff or something that they don't want to see again. But the feedback that they got was that people wanted to keep the videos up indefinitely because LinkedIn, mainly for professional people, looking for jobs, trying to hire people, they felt that having this video showed, I guess, humanize them. Because when you think about it, when you're applying for jobs, all these people get are, a resume with facts and figures, and they're trying to show they can put their little profile video up and show their personality and that type of thing. So they were wanting more than what this current, disappearing 24-hour deal was giving. They want to be able to add tags to say question of the day. So if you want to ask questions and engage that way. So essentially they are discontinuing their current version of stories, but they are working on a more robust version of a video. They're calling it mixed media content that people can have on their professional profile. So I rarely go on LinkedIn because it's just a lot. You would think because I'm so active on Twitter, it would be fine, but I was like, I can't have that many busy things going on at one time. So I check in on LinkedIn every so often, but I didn't realize that people were really using stories like this on LinkedIn.
Because it's disingenuous. Because when you're on Twitter, you're being social because you want to find the next person to drag, the next person to be angry at, the next
you want to laugh,
the
see the
news story,
jokes, see the memes.
Yeah, you want to tear people down. This is just my own understandings of social media the social media platforms as they evolved, right? Twitter is the place to where you want to see somebody get canceled, you want to make fun of somebody, you want to argue about everybody being the expert in everything and think pieces, right? Facebook is your auntie and uncle and your friends from college, right? Instagram is, I'm trying to make money being an influencer. And LinkedIn is, I'm trying to get a job, right? So is this the people who were using the stories as they were, the reason why they want them more robust is because I am trying to get a job. I'm not trying to be social on LinkedIn. This social media aspect of it is trash. Give me something that I can promote myself so I can get a job. And this short copying off an Instagram. I'm not trying to be on LinkedIn because I don't want to be on Instagram. I want to be on Instagram, but I want to be on LinkedIn, right? But I want to be on LinkedIn because I'm trying to get this job, or I'm trying to find these employees, or I'm trying to
build my network up.
I'm trying to get clients.
LinkedIn
is where people go to network for the sole purpose of getting paid.
Right.
Instagram, influencers, Twitter is like the dumpster fire, right?
Yeah.
And Facebook is kind of like, oh, what's my auntie doing, or happy birthday, right?
Family reunion. Facebook is family reunion time.
Right. People are trying to be on LinkedIn to get paid. So this little social media aspect of it, people are on LinkedIn. It's like, look, how can I use this to get a job, or how can I use this to get clients, or how can I use this to get employees, because a lot of recruiters are on LinkedIn. How can I do this to get people, because I'm a recruiter and I need somebody for this job posting so I can get commission.
Yeah. So the person I was referencing, her name is actually Liz Lee, and she is the senior director of product. And she said that the LinkedIn stories will be ending the end of next month. So I'm assuming that is the end of September. And she said they will be replacing it with a quote reimagined video experience. So it sounds like they're like, oh, we were thinking too small. We were thinking social media when we should have been thinking bigger. And so it sounds like they are going to come back with something bigger. So it should be, I guess, interesting to see how people use this. I mean, I don't really even use stories now. So I definitely won't be using them on LinkedIn, but apparently there is an audience for this, and they are trying to use it to get this money.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The next thing, on the heels of the success from Apple's M1 chip, it looks like Google is making the leap as well, as they are planning to make their own ARM-based Chromebook processors. In the article that I found on MSN, but it's from Engadget, and it basically alludes to that they saw the success that Apple was having with the M1 chips, and they want to get in on it for their own Chromebook devices. And it sounds like they've hired folks from, the primary, chip makers. I think they got some from Intel, some Intel engineers who are working on this project. And I think, was it Qualcomm? Yes, Qualcomm as well, to come up with their own chip to power their devices. Because, of course, as we know, when you have your own, you don't necessarily have to rely on a separate supply chain. You can pretty much own it and have as much control as possible over the flow and the influx of hardware and materials that are coming in. So it looks like more companies are jumping on the bandwagon of having their own chips. And I think schools really use Chromebooks. I think those are probably the biggest users of Chromebooks.
So here's the difference, right? Schools use Chromebooks. Schools may not necessarily use Google Chromebooks. The Google Chromebooks that I think the chips are going to be on are going to be Google branded. The Google Chromebooks are expensive and may not have a whole lot of market share. So my thing is, it'll be interesting to see what Google does with a Chromebook that they have their own chip on. Is that going to make it even more expensive, or they're trying to cater to a super specific user like the current Chromebooks, Google specific Chromebooks, or are they going to use that to drive down the price to compete with the Samsungs that make Chromebooks, with all the other brands out there that make Chromebooks that are like $200, right? Because those are what the school's using. They're using $200-$300 Chromebooks. They're not using the $999 and the $1399 Chromebooks from Google. So I would hope that Google is going to make their own chip for Chromebooks that are coming out in 2023 to drive the price down so they can be more competitive.
They can get more of the market share
with, as opposed to all the other brands, Acer, Samsung, HP, Dell, that all make dirt cheap Chromebooks that are just throwaway. Maybe Google's like, all right, well, we want our Chromebooks to be used by a larger market share, but we want them to be quality as well. So it'd be interesting to see which way Google goes with this.
Yeah, and it looks like from the same article that they've already they've already announced that they're going to do their own mobile chip as well, called Tensor, that is expected to debut on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, similar to Apple doing their own chip as well. So it looks like they've seen the success that other companies are having, specifically Apple, and they are following suit, which I'm not surprised by.
No,
Had the M1 chip failed, then people would be like, see, that's why I just stick with what you know. But the fact that, one, Apple has been successful with it, and two, the price hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone up by a huge margin. It's honestly, for the current M1 Max that are out there, it's around the same price as it would be with an Intel chip. So I think they're trying to get in on some of this money and say, you know what? Yep,
they
let
they
me
better
get on
hurry up
that. Yep.
because they got to fight other Android platforms. Like I said, you talked about the Pixels. When people go buy an Android phone, they're not buying a Google. They're buying a
They're buying
Samsung
Samsung.
Galaxy.
Yep.
So, Google looks like they're trying to compete against their own family, to try to
Nobody
stick out.
wins
So,
when the family feuds.
right. But again, that makes it a challenge because, that added, coming to the party late when other competitors are using your platform just as good, if not better.
Then you, yep.
How can you differentiate? Well, you make your own chips.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and the last thing that we're going to talk about in Second String today is back to Twitter. They have created what they're calling safety mode, which temporarily blocks accounts from insulting users. As
Good
you
luck with that.
mentioned, we know Twitter is a dumpster fire and it is a hot mess, especially when it comes to harassment. And if you go onto if a tweet goes viral, you go in there and you see what I think at one point it was the lights that shows things on the walls. You just get spammed in the comments with, buy this light thing, and it shows things on the ceiling like the stars or whatever. And now I think it's something, save video. If you go on any viral tweet, you'll see a ton, like back to back to back to back comments of you save video or buy this or buy that,
Oh yeah,
because
right. Yeah.
they're bots. So I think this feature, while the intent is to block, insults and hateful remarks, I think it's going to swoop up these folks as well, because they do spam your account with spam your tweet with this information. So it says users will be blocked if they are sending repetitive, uninvited replies or mentions. So it
Yeah.
goes to
So
both. So it can be for people who are doing hateful conversations, and for these folks who are making money by spamming these comments.
so the latter will probably work better by swooping up these bots that are just putting out comments, right? People on Twitter, it is a dumpster fire, right? But people are clever on Twitter when taking part in the dumpster fire. They are very, very clever with their insults. So, like I said, when I said at the top, good luck with that, because these Twitter users are very, very clever and very, very cerebral when it comes to how they attack people on Twitter. Now, of course, there are some people who just don't care, but they are very few and far between, and they're very overt with it. So if there are some people on Twitter that's like, oh, monkey, blah blah blah, 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 all obscenities and things. You can catch those easy, but
Yeah.
that's a small sample. The
Yeah.
people in general that are on Twitter, they know what time it is, so they are very clever, very smart, very witty, very sarcastic with how they insult people, and I don't think Twitter's going to scoop up hardly any of those folks.
So what they're saying is it's in conjunction with checking against people that you currently follow and that you currently interact with. So that's another, I guess, level to how they are going to go about figuring out what's being, what's not consistent with who you normally interact with or follow or comment with. So they said that it will be, of course, it will have to be fine tuned. It'll have to be, constantly updated. But they're saying that you can say, if you get swept up in this and you get auto blocked and it's someone that you know and that you didn't mean to block, because people
Hmm.
who you're friends with, you say, funny things or off the cuff things that might get
Hmm.
caught up and be
Hmm.
considered as offensive when that's not the intent. They're in the safety settings, you'll be able to go in and say, no, that's my people. Let me unblock them. So you will be able to toggle this feature on and off, and you will be also able to add back people who have been blocked that you didn't want to be blocked.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I don't see them being able to do this using machine learning or AI because, again, like I said, these people are slick
Yeah,
on Twitter. So,
the it would have the day would have to be seriously trained, and I don't know
hmm.
how they would do that, because people already put asterisks in names that if you are a person looking at it, you can tell who it is. But I don't
Right.
know necessarily how a an AI algorithm will be able to pull that out, because if you may put the asterisk every other per word, every other letter, or you may just do it on
Hmm.
one. So it's a lot of different idiosyncrasies that can go into this,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
may
Twitter
not
has its
be
own.
right,
Mhm.
that may
Twitter
not
has its
be
own
a,
language,
yeah,
yeah, and people, subsections of Twitter
have their
have
own
their own
language.
language,
Yeah.
so it'd be interesting to see if they can train a computer or a data or to figure out the lingo of Twitter in order to stamp out some of this negative content because it's almost like, and I could be negative Nancy, I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
I
people
think I
use.
think it will have some effect. I don't know how much it will have, because I know the data can be trained, and I know they're super smart, machine learners and data scientists who can probably figure this out. The only thing is, like I said, it would have to be something that would be constantly having to be updated and
Hmm.
retrained as people figure out what the algorithm is looking for, and they
Hmm.
switch it up just to kind of evade being caught. So
Right.
I think personally, for the bots that are selling things, those will easily get swept away, and the bots that just get accounts created just to harass people, those will
Hmm.
be able to be easily identified and swept
Hmm.
away. But some of the more nuanced conversations, I think that
Hmm.
will, it's still going to rely on people reporting to Twitter that these people are harassing me. They need to be have their account suspended, or you block them, or that type of thing. So I just think it's just honestly just another layer of them trying to figure out how to moderate Twitter, even though we all know that it is a mammoth.
Impossible.
It's a mammoth of a beast to try and figure out. But I give them kudos for trying different things and seeing if it works. Again, they are trying it out, so we'll see if it turns out to be one of those things that they can actually use to be helpful, or if it's something that's like, what, it's not worth the time and the effort and the money, so we're just going to scrap it. So
It's
anything, I
it.
think any time they can try and come up with something to reduce some of the hate and
Hmm.
abuse on Twitter, I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
All right, that's it for second string. Let's head on over to for the culture. I saw this article. An extra friend of mine put it in our group chat, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that this was even happening." It's been 2 years now since the murder of Elijah McClain, the 23-year-old from Colorado, who was put in a chokehold and subsequently given a high dose of what is it? Ketamine? What is it? How do you, ketamine? Ketamine?
Ketamine.
Ketamine? Yes, and was killed. This was, during the summer of Black Lives Matter when this happened, and by all accounts, this was a sweet guy. Wasn't harming anything. The police had no reason to even pull him over. And this is coming from an investigation by the Aurora Police Department. And they found that the chokehold that was used was, that wasn't the cause of his death, but that was an illegal hold. It was a shot, the 500 milligrams of ketamine that was given to him that caused his heart to stop. And
Mm-hmm.
he was brain dead, and he was, I think, on the machines for a little while. And his family ultimately had to, take him off life support. So all that being said, this happened back in 2019. A Colorado grand jury just today returned a 32 count indictment against the police officers and the paramedics. So it's three police officers and two paramedics. They were charged with the three officers and the two paramedics were charged with manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. And the state attorney general announced this, like I said, today. So with all that being said, 2 years after the fact, the state of Colorado banned that chokehold. I think one of the three police officers was fired from this as well. And I think it's also interesting to note that the two paramedics are being charged, and they face 3 second-degree assault charges as well. That's related directly to the ketamine dose, and 2 counts of violence related to this assault on this 23-year-old young man. So I bring this all up to say is similar to the situation with George Floyd. We weren't really sure how it was going to play out. So this family is finally getting some form of accountability. It's coming down slow. It's been 2 years.
After pressure.
Yeah, after pressure and after, firing one of the police officers, after making laws to ban the chokehold and doing all of these extra things, they finally have brought this down, 2 years after the fact. I guess the question is it too late? Or even if accountability takes too long, is it still, valid? Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
It's definitely valid. It is long. I wouldn't necessarily say late. I think justice can never be too late. It To me, it just goes down to, you know, was all of this necessary, right? Even for him to be, this life taken from him, you know, what danger did he pose, right? Initially. And then even after that, why is it such a thing for authorities, specifically police, to feel like if they're being challenged in any shape, form, or fashion, that force has to be used? That is the question that I think a lot of people who are saying abolish the police, they're using abolish police as a blanket statement, but what they really want to say is, why is force, specifically when it comes to black and brown people, why is force the first response?
Yeah.
The first option versus force when other people are in danger. Force should be the last option. It's always the first option. And then it's like, oh, then after, like you said, with Elijah, with even George Floyd, with a lot of these instances, they use force first and then they figure out the rest later.
Yeah.
Versus figure out the rest, use force as a last resort when somebody else is in danger, because the whole point of the police is to protect
and
serve, not force people to obey. That's not how it. Force people to be compliant is not the charter for the police. Is to protect and serve. So
right.
I think, that's why you hear reform, abolish the police, is because seriously, how the police interacts with people in general, not just black and brown people, just how they approach situations in general. Now, don't get me wrong. Let me qualify by saying cops are doing a stressful job. We hear all the time to where cops getting shot, cops getting killed with something simple as pulling over somebody for speeding, whatever the case may be. It's a dangerous job, it's a tricky job. You never know what the outcome is going to be, but you're certainly elevating those risks when you're coming as a force versus let's figure out what's going on.
Assess the
So,
situation first and then decide
right.
if force needs to be applied. Because in Elijah's case, he was, I think, just walking down the street and they pulled him over. And, I think we have the video where he was just saying, he said, quote, "Let go of me. I'm an introvert. Please respect my boundaries that I'm speaking." So he was just like the sweetest kid. And then you thought that it was necessary to first put him in that type of chokehold, because he was a very slight, guy, kind of lanky guy. And then the next thing you thought was to give him a high dose of what,
Because
ketamine?
again, it goes back to that I am the authority, you should comply. Any other way that this goes, I'm going to I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Even if you are
I,
complying,
right. Even if you are compliant, I'm going to teach you a lesson to respect my authority. And I think that's why
it's a
we're
power
so
trip.
upset. That's why we say abolish the police, because the police are trained with that mindset of respect my authority or else. Not protect and serve, not assess the situation, not respect the community, not even respect the rights of individuals. Respect my authority or else.
Yeah.
And I think that's why stuff like this that actually comes down to where there looks like to be some accountability that's going to take place. We're like,
Yeah.
finally, people are starting to recognize that there are police officers who go into these situations not with every other thought except for
Peace.
peace, which is what their job is supposed to
Right.
be.
De-escalate the situation.
Right,
But you're
right.
expecting me to be calm and rational when I'm the one that's on the defensive. But you're
Mm,
yelling, it was three police officers. You have three people yelling at you with guns coming at you.
mhm.
You're already hyper alert. You're
And you're
supposed to
angry,
yes, and
and
you're
you're
supposed to de-escalate the situation, but you're expecting me, a non-trained person.
right,
You've
to
got all this training,
de-escalate.
you got the
Right.
badge, you did the time to learn all these things. You're expecting me to be calm and rational while you are being the opposite of
On
calm and rational.
and then add the racism on top of that, because we've
Definitely.
seen videos and we've heard stories of white folks acting crazy,
We've
slapping
seen the
police
video.
officers,
Yeah.
attacking them, and police use all the restraint in the world. And it's like, why can't that be used across the
Across the
board?
board.
Or why can't force be used across the board?
Yeah.
Pick one, and I know every situation is different, but at the same time,
The way
we
you
can
approach it
point
should
out
be the same.
inaccuracies all the time, and why, what is the difference? We can only go back to discrimination, we can only go back to bias, we can only go back to stereotypes, we can only go back to race. What else is there? Give
Yeah.
me a reason why it's not it's so inaccurate. So if it's going to be inaccurate, we need to abolish the whole thing. We need to reform the whole thing, because what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree. His mother, Shani McLean, said that she is, quote, grateful that my son is going to have his justice. Um, I, similar to the way I was about going into the George Floyd trial, I hope that he gets his justice for this. I try not to have too high of expectations because I don't want the disappointment, especially when you have the Aurora Police Association's board of directors issuing a statement that said that the officers, quote, did nothing wrong, and argued that, quote, there is no evidence that APD officers caused his death. So it's one of
That's
those
the
things.
hairs that they're trying to split.
Right, that's the hair. There, and likely what they're trying to say is the police officers didn't cause that. The death was technically caused by the paramedic who gave
Hmm.
him the ketamine.
Ketamine.
So it's not on us, even though the two work hand in hand.
Hmm.
I'm grateful that his mother and his family are grateful that this didn't just get swept under the rug, that it didn't go away, that some people, at least initially, are being held accountable. We don't know what the outcome is, but they do have 32 counts against them that is going to have to go to trial.
Hmm.
So I'm sure all this is going to be, brought back up. This is going to bring back painful memories for them, for the city. But I just hope that he gets some sort of justice, and that people start to realize that you can't treat people this way.
Right.
And it's one of those things that this wasn't as quote say, sensationalized as much as the George Floyd situation, but it all ended the same. It left a black man dead at the
Hmm.
hands of the police, and in this case, the police and the paramedics. So I just hope that we can ultimately get to a point where we don't have these types of interactions. I don't think we'll get past that. I can hope the optimist in me can hope that we can one day get to that point. But if not, at least some accountability and justice for those that are harmed. All right, that's it. And for the culture, let's head over to the hookup, where we find out a useful tip from Brother Tech.
So the tip for the week is keepsake. Most of us have a bajillion pictures in our phones. I'd say maybe not even 1% actually make it to any sort of picture that you can hang on your wall. It all stays digital nowadays.
Yep.
Specifically with me and my family, we very rarely put up pictures anywhere. I don't know what that is, but I digress. That's a whole another thing. But what I'm trying to do is be less of that and start to display more of our family portraits. But I don't want to make it hard on myself, so I did some research, try to find out the best app to actually go from a digital photo on my iPhone to an actual frame on the wall. And Keepsake was one of the best ones I found. And this was pretty much simple. It's like you upload the images from your camera roll, you select the frames. They got a whole lot of different versions, different sizes. If you like the thick white border in between the frame, if you like the big different color of the frames, either white or black or wood or whatever the case may be, they make it real easy to search through all the different selections, the different sizes. And then once you actually purchase them, it's like super fast shipping. I did one on Sunday, I want to say, and then yesterday it showed up framed
Nice.
in the picture. It wasn't a big, it's not a big, it wasn't a big picture that you put over the fireplace. Maybe the size a little bit smaller than, size. Oh,
Like
oh,
a
shoot.
eight,
Yeah, a little bit
like a eight and
smaller
a
than
half
this.
by 11.
Yeah, yeah. But and then they actually, put it in the border and they put it on the frame, and it gets about the size of my iPad when it's all said and done. And they give you the choice to do you want to hang it or do you want to put it on a stand? And they come with like this little, cooler way to stand it without adding an extra bulk to the actual picture. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, the prices are they're reasonable. You'll look to spend about $20, when it's all said and done, at a minimum. The one I
Per
had
photo.
per frame, including shipping and taxes, it was about $30 when it was all said and done, for like about a 8.5 by 11 size altogether, the whole total size, not the whole picture. Picture's smaller, but it depends on the different border and a different frame. But you spend about $30, you get a nice size framed picture to your house in about 2 to 3 days. So that is my tip for the week. Definitely check them out. Keepsake. and we'll put a link in the show notes so you can check them out.
I'm definitely going to have to check this out because in my entryway in my house, one of the walls is just all pictures. And then in my living room, my main back wall is like different size and shape pictures kind of surrounding this piece of artwork. So I'm definitely going to have to look this up because the way I've been doing it was uploading them to Walmart, printing them out from Walmart, having Walmart ship them, and buying frames and having to put them in frames and then having to hang them on the wall. I don't like using nails and hammers on the walls because I don't know, that's my thing. But I use like the command strips to kind of the little clicky ones. So yeah, this is definitely, I'll definitely look into this because it sounds way easier than my roundabout process. Cool. All right, that is it for this week. Definitely download, rate, and review us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can hit us up and engage with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're at SnobWestCast everywhere. Also, make sure to watch us on YouTube. We're at SnobWestCast. Definitely go to our page and like and subscribe to our channel. You can also leave comments and suggestions on our website, snobwestcast.com, or via email at snobwestcast@gmail.com. You can also give us a financial contribution in two ways. You can support our Patreon by going to patreon.com/snobwestcast. And for $5 a month, you get access to our pre-show content, access to our live show taping, and access to our chat community. The second way you can financially support the show is by sending us a one-time love offering via PayPal, which is at paypal.me/snobwest. And that's our show for this week. We will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Peace.
Bye.